Hello and welcome to the Artist Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Goslow, and I'm so excited today to have my new friend and an awesome woman, Chef Stephanie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Chris. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. And I am excited as well. And I know my wife is excited as well because you've come over today just to say hello and to talk on this podcast and also to prepare a little food for us. Isn't that right?
That's right. I'm making us lunch.
Now, I will never pass up the opportunity to have lunch with a cool, creative professional who has something interesting to say that we can also record in this podcast. So I think it's a very, very cool win-win, well, at least for me, and I hope so for you.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you want me to tell you what we're having for lunch?
Oh, yes, please do.
Okay, awesome. So I'm one of those chefs who has recently stumbled upon the Instant Pot, which is a bit of a hack. Actually, a life hack. Are you familiar with the Instant Pot?
Well, we are new owners of an Instant Pot, so I'm getting familiar.
Okay, awesome. So the function that I love the most about the Instant Pot is the pressure cooker. It cooks things super fast. So what we're going to have for lunch today is a curried lentil stew. And we've got some yummy organic veggies in there, some squash, some eggplant, and some sweet potatoes. They're actually from a neighbor's yard. And we'll hopefully get to have some lunch together in a little bit and see how it is.
Yeah, great. Well, that is awesome. And I love the part about homegrown potatoes from the neighbor's yard.
Yeah, and the eggplant and the squash. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's so cool. The whole system of things that came together to make this little meal. That is really cool. And it actually reminds me a lot of what this podcast is about. In my last episode, I was interviewing a woman who runs a print gallery down the street, and we were talking about how she was interacting with artists or who would come in and bring their art in to sell, and at the same time, sometimes customers would come in and buy the prints, and this is the HFA print gallery, by the way, and sometimes they would even end up maybe hiring the artists for other commissions. And what I said to her was, this whole thing about art it's like a web of relationships. And when I say art, of course, that's my point of view as an artist, but obviously whatever that art is, which I consider cooking and food and art, and there's a whole sort of web of things that come together to make that possible.
I think the art that an artist makes and then puts out in the world is much like what you get when you walk into a restaurant. And when I think of a commission art piece, I think about the collaboration that I get to have with my clients when I help them design private dinner parties. So I am working with the client to figure out what they want that product to look like, and they get their input into it. So that collaborative process is one of the biggest things that I enjoy about the kind of work that I do.
It's a great synergy of different people and forces coming together.
So I've been a professional chef for over 30 years. I've spent many of those years in different kitchens in the Bay Area, mostly in Santa Cruz and San Francisco. And about 10 years ago, I decided to get my own business going, and I focused primarily on working with clients to help them throw dinner parties in private homes. Also, I work with my clients to throw other types of parties like cocktail parties. And I also work with busy families and other individuals who need support in terms of having their weekly meals provided for them. So I work with people where I can do a delivery, or I can come to their house and cook once a week, and I just make sure they have really yummy, healthy food in their house for the week. So parties and that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you explained to me, you're pretty new to Sacramento, and how have you been enjoying it so far?
Wow, I love it. I've been here 4 months, and I just survived my first summer, so I feel like a survivor.
You can get through that, you can get through anything.
So yeah, I love the area, and I just am appreciating the totally different lifestyle that's what you have here. That's so different from, I lived right in San Francisco, right in the Mission, and that was a beautiful experience. I was there for 20 years, and I'm super grateful for that time there. But I'm really excited to be here and to be able to spread out a little bit and slow down a little bit. And I have to say, I've been meeting the coolest people. Everyone here is so friendly. It's been amazing how quickly I've built both my professional and my personal network. And I have no regrets, and I just feel like I'm home in a certain way. It's really sweet.
That is awesome. And I was nodding a lot as you were talking because I can relate, having, in a way, had my own similar experience coming here, and the sense of a kind of being able to breathe a little more, slow down a little bit, perhaps you might say. There's a very cosmopolitan quality in Sacramento, and at the same time, it's happily not the Bay.
Yeah.
And so that's what I heard in what you said.
Yeah, I still love San Francisco, but this is home now.
Yeah, and absolutely. Anybody from the Bay, look, I feel that I am from the Bay. I'm tried and true. I went to high school in San Francisco, college in Berkeley, grew up in the East Bay. So I love the Bay, and it's a big part of who I am. And I actually think there's a large contingent, maybe even a growing contingent of people in the Sacramento area who come from the Bay because they see similar appealing qualities but certain advantages.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's interesting how life works, and how things change. And one of the things that this reminds me of is you mentioned, kind of making some turns and as your career has evolved and deciding what works for you next. When you're an entrepreneur and when you work for yourself and you provide a service, one of the great advantages that I have found about it is that you can remake yourself and decide position yourself, rebrand yourself, decide how your services are not only best provided to others, but what you most are interested in providing to others, and also, of course, what people most want. And it seems like you have, evolved that, I imagine, over the years. Talk a little about how that's gone.
Absolutely. So I think this actually goes back to something we've talked about before, which is about being your authentic self in the world. And I think it's really important for us to get to be who we really are in our relationships personally, but also in our business relationships and in the ways that we run our business. So I think as a younger person, I was concerned that really showing my entire self was not appropriate or even welcome in the chef world. But what I've realized, I think part as I've had the 10 years in my business, I've decided that it's actually part of my core value system to be my authentic self in the business, in my relationships with my clients, in the work that I do, in the way that I work with my staff and the other vendors that I work with. I just really value relationships as the network that supports me in my success. And I want all of those relationships to be situations or times or places when we really connect on like a superhuman level and find ways to, again, just support each other in and find ways to help each other thrive. I think that's really important to do that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you started out by talking about being authentic, and I imagine for you that when you are authentic, you provide a certain energy that influences your relationships for the positive. You ended up by talking about relationships, but it seems that it starts with that authenticity and self-acceptance, which you can then bring to the relationships. Yes?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think when we show up as our authentic selves, we can also filter out the wrong people. And I think that's a really effective tool when you're in business. I think that the more that you're authentic on your website, when you talk about what your values are, you talk about why you love the work that you do, why it's important to you, people start to get a real sense of your personality, and either it clicks with them or it doesn't. And we can't make everybody happy. So the sooner you can figure out the people that you can't make happy, I think the better. And I also think the people that click with you, they're just going to come running at you. They're going to be so excited to find that perfect fit and that person that inspires them and speaks to them. And I just hope that before my clients pick up the phone or shoot me an email, that they've already fallen in love with me. They already really appreciate what I do, how I do it, and from there, it's just almost an effortless process to work with my clients.
I love it. I'm taking mental notes as you're talking because I'm definitely inspired for myself. And the idea of having them love you before they contact you, practically speaking, it helps you filter out people who may not be a good match. But you started by saying that that's a part of the process. Before we go on, just in case someone is listening and wants to check out your website, what is your website?
It's chef-stephanie.com.
Pretty easy. chef-stephanie.com. STEPHANIE. Just in case. Yeah, awesome. And you had said something similar when we first talked about this idea of sort of having people already start to know, like, and trust you by looking at your website. And although I have been around conversations and done many websites myself and heard many people talk about doing websites and so forth, I'm not sure that it ever just kind of impressed upon me so clearly and so cleanly as when you brought it up. Realizing that, yes, that is what it's about. The website can provide a nice proxy for you that gives people a chance to see who they get to meet. And it also can be a nice sort of bouncer for all the others that are the ones that you're not going to want to work with anyway.
Yep.
And I just think it's really cool how well you've thought this through, because I've also known many other entrepreneurs or solopreneurs and creatives who are trying to do what they think will work or something like that, but it sounds like you sort of hit a sweet spot for yourself.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Yeah, so, well, just to speak about the website and the opportunities that are there. So I see every business person that has a website as a person that has an opportunity to use that platform. And when I talk about that platform, I'm thinking about the opportunity to integrate your value system and your business, which I think is super important. I think it also touches on that authenticity piece. But I really try to run my business in alignment with my values, and I try to make that clear in a lot of the content that I have on my website. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool.
Integrating all of those.
Yeah, so I encourage anyone out there that has a website to go take a look at it and analyze whether or not you're really using that platform in every way possible, because it is actually a very powerful tool. And I feel like I come back to my website every, I would probably say several months, and just take a look and say, hey, is this saying what I want to say right now, or is there something I want to add or subtract or enhance? And I just think, a website is kind of a living thing. It needs to be nurtured and maintained, and so at any point you can go to it and make adjustments based on what it is, what your message is. What's your message?
Yes, I like that analogy very much. The idea of a website being a living thing, an expression of who you are. And by thinking it through and being conscientious and seeing what appeals and applies to you now, you are keeping an image that is relevant and that's honest for now and for who you are. Basically, what I'm saying, Chef Stephanie, is that I like the sound of what's going on here. I like the way you're talking, and
Great.
I'm sure that this whole philosophy, or at least that it all does well for your clients, the people you work with. And any more you want to say about that?
So I'm a chef, so obviously I'm the maker of food, and a lot of my clients are looking for someone to help them put together some kind of celebration. So I work with a lot of people who are of milestone birthdays coming up, or a wedding anniversary, or a baby shower, or all of these moments in life that are significant. We tend to celebrate with food. So it's a no-brainer that someone calls because they're throwing a party because they've got something going on that they want to celebrate. But what I like to add to the whole experience in planning these events with my clients is to not only think about what they're going to taste like, but also think about what they're going to look like and what they're going to feel like. Because ultimately, I'm working with my clients to create a space to help them make memories in. And I love that that's part of what I do. And I don't think it's the approach that every chef brings to the client relationship. And I've just made it a priority for me to engage in that kind of collaboration with my clients. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but I wanted to make that point.
You said it beautifully.
Okay.
And I really, I certainly relate to it. And anybody who's meant to hear this, like you were saying, the people that get it, I'm sure they're going to get that. They're going to really get that and certainly be inspired, like I'm inspired by it. I think there's a totality of how you're speaking that clearly pervades everything you do, and that has a people-centered focus, as opposed to a doing-centered focus or making food. You know, it reminds me of that analogy I've heard. It's kind of a story, a parable maybe, about the different bricklayers. And one of them, you ask him what he's doing. He says, "I'm laying brick." Then you ask the second person what he's doing, and then he says, "I'm building a building." And then the third bricklayer says, "I am building a cathedral." And it's a parable that is meant to describe the different contexts or the attitude that that one can have in doing any process. And if you are, I imagine in the chef's world, cutting lettuce, and that's what you're doing. You're cutting lettuce. Another person right next to you could be making memories, like you're saying, and I know which one I prefer to work with. I mean, the idea is just so different. And I've worked with the lettuce cutters, and I've worked with the visionaries.
Well, I do cut lettuce too, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I didn't mean, of course you cut lettuce, but where your head is.
Yeah. So you used a word, you said like totality, and I like to say that I have a holistic approach to helping my clients plan their wedding, I do plan weddings, small ones, but any kind of event, I should say. Yeah. Just in the sense that my perspective on the experience is from kind of a macro view. I think a lot of people will contact me and they'll come in with like, "Let me see your menu." And it's like, okay, I'll send you my menus, but there's actually a lot more going on than the food on the plate. And what I help them understand, if they're not in that space already, is the potential and the possibilities in these hours that they're asking their friends and family to come around the table. There's so much more to think about than what I'm going to put on the table. And I just encourage them to think about how we can tie in other elements and just be thoughtful in the planning process, so that time that they get with their family and friends, which for many people is very precious time, that we maximize it in terms of the experience that they have that night, and again, the memories that they take with them that, last a lifetime.
Yeah.
Not to be too cheesy, but you'll remember that night you spent when your wife turned 50 and you took the time to really make it a special night,
Yes. Well, it's so nicely people-centric how you're talking. It's about the people you're serving. It's about what they're going to take away with it. Long after the food is digested and the last plate is cleaned, and maybe even after the house is sold or whatever, those memories, like you said, come on, let's be real. All life is about can be contained in what you're talking about. The things that people care about. It's relationships, it's being with other people, it's having good times with their family and the people around them, having a good experience, and obviously food is a big, they say break bread together. It's a big part of that.
I wanted to talk a little bit about how that philosophy is connected to the meal delivery service that I provide.
Absolutely.
Because that service can sound a little boring and a little less of an opportunity for meaning. But the place that I'm coming from with that service is solution oriented. So I understand that families are crazy busy. I understand that a new baby in the house is an incredibly crazy and new, different time in a new family. I understand that if you're on some kind of fitness journey and are changing a lot of habits in your life, that the food that you eat is really important. I understand that your first week in a new house is really hard if the kitchen isn't unpacked yet. So a lot of times when folks find themselves at the end of the day with the responsibility of putting dinner on the table, it totally stresses them out. And it's a time when sometimes people make some really bad decisions and they go out and they pick the wrong place, and it's just not the nutrition that they really want, and they're not eating the way they want. And so the motivation I have behind providing this service is for it to be the perfect solution to getting the whole family around the table, eating the way that you want to eat, and actually looking forward to dinner instead of it impacting you on a stressful level. So I'm just trying to frame that service in a way that feels solution oriented. It feels like a relief. It's solving a problem, and it's the high quality food experience that you know you need, you want it, and I'm able to help with that.
Yeah, that's so cool, and it's a great pairing, obviously, of professional services that really obviously can make you prosperous and happy for your own self as in your career, but also obviously helping other people. And one thing that I've heard you say, whether you realized it or not, behind what you were saying again and again, is it's almost like being the keeper of the vision that in our daily lives people can lose sight of, in the midst of the house change or the baby or the exercise or the family, that people want to feel good while they eat. They want to have a good experience when they have their family there. They want to have these things. And it sounds to me from how you're talking that you can help keep that in the space for them. What are we really here about? And you just said solution oriented. The solution is not just having this great meal, but also an environment. It's almost like bringing the ideal restaurant experience into their home. It's like I'm saying, like preach, sister. Everything you're saying has this nice philosophy behind it that I'm hearing.
Well, what I'm hearing you say, what I'm pulling out of it is that there's a part of where I'm coming from in my heart that really wants people to feel like taken care of and comfortable and cared for. And I've never thought that food should make people uncomfortable, either in its presentation or in its kind of, I don't know, if you're putting something on a plate that's unfamiliar to people. Like I think you can challenge people certainly in some ways, but I'm not really in the business of challenging people. I'm more geared towards being of service and helping people find comfort and, I don't know, the sweet spot maybe. So that's my personality, is just to naturally be kind of a nurturing type of person. So I don't know if that resonates or feels aligned with what you were saying.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it reminds me of the whole thing about being authentic. And we've all met a lot of people. I've met a lot of people in life, but what stands out about you for me is that the clarity of how your business reflects your values, as you were saying before. Very cool, and not always clear. I don't always see it in others, and I'm still, maybe at times, I'm getting ideas from you about, hey, I could work my website or my marketing this way or that way, and it all sounds really awesome. Okay, so I just paused the podcast a little bit, and because I can do that. This is my podcast, and why not? Anyway, so I'm here with Chef Stephanie, and we're having a great conversation. And, it's just really nice when I meet somebody who comes from such a nice, good place and then can talk about it and articulate it and then put it into practice in a business, it's all a beautiful synergy that I think life should be about. So I just want to acknowledge you for that. The funny thing is that Chef Stephanie approached me with a certain idea that we first met before I asked her to be on this podcast. Would you like to say anything about that?
About my idea?
Yeah, what's your idea for us?
Right, so I actually met a mutual friend of ours, and I was telling her about the kind of parties that I do in private homes mostly. And she said, you have to meet Chris, because he's this awesome creative guy who plays the piano, and he also works in private homes. And so my thought was, with the holiday season approaching, that what a great partnership opportunity for us to either for you to talk to clients that have hired you who also need a food component for their event, or for me, for people that have hired me for an event to provide the food, to let them know about your services. And I think especially holidays, like the holiday season being December, I can totally imagine being in the kitchen and cooking up a storm and hearing your beautiful music like filtering in from the living room. So I've always been a huge fan of alliances and partnerships in business networks, and I think our mutual friend Kim, she had the idea. It was her idea.
Yeah.
So I think there's no stopping us.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh yeah, well, and Kim is great. Kim runs her own kind of health and nutrition program about emotional eating, ending emotional eating. Kim McLaughlin, by the way. Yeah, I totally agree. I've been doing holiday shows for years, although I've been at some really well catered events with awesome catering teams and whatnot, to kind of come in from the get-go with you as a partner. I haven't done that before, so. And as a creative entrepreneur, there's this great kind of ability we have to swim in the stream of possibilities with new clients, new opportunities, and this seems like another one of them, and a great one. See, I'm telling you, it's all good.
Well, I was going to actually point out that while let's say an event that you're working with a client on, it may seem like a short period of time between that first email or phone call and the event. Maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's a month, and there's an end to it. And yet, this person is someone who's now part of your universe, and you've established a relationship with this person, and it has no limits, really. They can become your biggest fan and have you back, every few months. Or they could become your biggest cheerleader and refer, all of their friends and family to you. Or there's so many possibilities as to how that client and you will continue to be networked and be in a relationship. So I like to keep that in mind, but there's still so much potential with that individual moving forward.
Absolutely, totally. Any person you work with could end up being a great cheerleader for you, can end up hiring you every few months, and it all comes down to those relationships. So definitely echo that, how important that is. All right, well, it's been such a great talk, and what we're going to do is special, because every episode is a bit of an experiment. What I'm going to do is we're going to be soon moving into the eating phase of this episode, and unfortunately, if you're listening, you can't actually enjoy what Chef Stephanie is making for us right now. But if you get in contact with her, you could hire her, and then she can cook for you as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to be setting up a little food. I'll just do a quick little video recording of that. I've been also taking some pictures as we go here, so it should be a cool little multimedia event here, just so that they know for sure. What's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, my website again is chef-stephanie.com. I encourage everyone that's interested to go take a look at it and get to know a little bit more about me and what I do. When you visit the website, you can also sign up for my newsletter, which I send out once a month. It's a pretty fun, short little bit of news, and I also always include a recipe of the month. So if you like to do a little cooking yourself, you can experiment with my recipes, or if you have a roommate, you can get them to cook for you. Whatever works.
And I think, are we doing the recipe that you added in your last email?
Yeah. So what we're having for lunch today is a very similar recipe to what I featured on my September newsletter. I actually don't have the archives available on my website right now, but if you email me, I can send you a copy of the September newsletter.
And your email?
chefstephanieh.com, and my phone number, 415-810-2433. You can text me or call me there, and I'm just excited to meet new people, so reach out.
Yeah, anybody listening who's an artist or aspiring artist or whatever that art you are in, cooking included, just take note, because this woman is ready to be of service. It's an awesome thing and an inspiring thing. So wonderful talk, and we're going to move into the next phase of this episode.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so here we are, and my wife Char. Say hi, Char. How you doing?
Oh, you're videoing?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
no.
We're just
Okay.
and my cat in the background. He's ignoring us and sleeping. So why don't you tell us what we got here?
Awesome. This is a curried lentil stew. It has diced tomatoes, eggplant, sweet potatoes, and summer squash, and we topped it with some sour cream and cilantro.
Nice, very nice.
It's seasoned with curry powder and cumin.
Smells so good. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, so we are going to dig in here, but I just wanted to get this quick little segment just so we could see the magic as it unfolds for us. So let's enjoy our meal.
All right.